If you like your pizza loaded with cheese, then have we got a crust for you. Pizza Hut's Ultimate Cheesy Crust Pizza. 16 cheesy pockets overflowing with a 5-cheese blend of melted cheeses. Only from Pizza Hut and only for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
If you've been injured in a car accident, then you know the next steps are critical for your well-being now and down the road. First things first, call 1-800-ASK-GARY. We can find you the help you need, medically and legally. You do have rights, and you deserve to get the best treatment and cash settlement possible. For over a decade, more than 150,000 Floridians have dialed 1-800-ASK-GARY to help them find legal and medical help. 1-800-ASK-GARY, Florida's free 24/7 auto accident helpline.
Non-attorney spokesperson.
The unknown was terrifying.
America's most captivating true crime stories are on 5 times a week.
I just wanted him dead.
Dateline.
Weeknights at 10 on CW17.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the increasingly popular 1010XL tonight. Now, Doug Marrone, not the only one guilty of poor time management. Frank Frangie, too, falls victim, so he won't be with us here tonight. But pleased to bring in Joe Cowart from 1010XL's Midday Chalk. Joe C., how we doing?
Doing outstanding. Busy weekend, though. We got a lot to cover.
Yeah, we do. And normally the Jaguars lead the show, but it was such a chaotic weekend in college football, especially considering the hires that have been made and maybe more to come, and that is our big thing.
The Big Thing is brought to you by Epstein and Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
And so now it will be Dan Mullen, the next head coach at the University of Florida, 27th coach in school history. Had a lot of success, Joe, when he was at Florida as the offensive coordinator. Happened to coincide with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow. That helps, but a couple different ways to look at this. And I think people were so excited about the possibilities of Chip Kelly and Scott Frost that it may temper their enthusiasm about Dan Mullen, but make no mistake, Dan Mullen's a qualified candidate who is probably ready for that step up.
Now, I'll admit, I had that love affair with the excitement that Chip Kelly would bring to the table. Certainly was into that idea. And then when you started looking, I watched that USF game from the stands. It was an incredible game, the war on I-4. So I was thinking Scott Frost. If you can't get Chip Kelly, go for Scott Frost. He is one of the proteges without all the headaches. So I was loving that idea. But when you finally arrive to Dan Mullen, you at the very least have to say to yourself, this guy has built quarterbacks. He has an offense that can score. They have played well throughout his 9 seasons there. He wins 60% of his ball games, Jeff. And even though he's not outstanding conference record-wise, he only has 1 winning season inside the conference, it's still a football team that competes with a below-average recruiting budget, a below-average set of coaches that perhaps you have at Mississippi State. I like where it's going. I'm gonna be positive and pro Dan Mullen.
Well, and I think almost every Gator fan is just happy to have some finality. What was seemed to be a long coach searching process, even though it was really rather short. I will say one thing about Dan Mullen, and I know some Gator fans are a little less enthusiastic about the hire, but Dan Mullen, since he left Gainesville, did one thing that the University of Florida hasn't done since. He had a team #1 in the country. Mississippi State was #1 in the country under Dan Mullen's guidance. And I'll tell you this, Mississippi State is, by a pretty good margin, the 7th best job in its own division. There are 7 schools in the SEC West. Dan Mullen in Starkville, Mississippi, for recruiting and other purposes, is competing with Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Ole Miss, which, by the way, just had about its best from a win-loss standpoint, 6 or 7 year string it's had in a long time. So, Dan Mullen has been introduced today. He is the new head coach at the University of Florida, and I think one thing's for sure we can count on, the offense will no longer be ranked in the hundreds.
Well, I think that's where I come in as well. It's not necessarily a drop back and fun and gun passing offense like we've seen in years gone by with Steve Spurrier. But at the same time, you have to realize spread offense is where it's going, particularly in the SEC. And he has developed Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, Dak Prescott. Look at what Nick Fitzgerald was doing before he had the injury. That guy was having a stellar year. You go back and look at the SEC record books, he's running for 1,000 yards a couple of plus seasons. So Mullen, here's the thing for me. Dan Mullen takes the quarterback quarterback position and makes the offense run through him. When can you say that about the Florida quarterback position in the last handful of years? They have not run it through their quarterback. Evidence Saturday with what happened.
Well, I'll tell you, yeah. I mean, I disagree, Joe. I mean, the FSU defense ran right through Felipe Franks, the Florida quarterback, all Saturday afternoon in the swamp in a miserable showing by Florida's freshman quarterback. I think he may have thrown his last pass at the University of Florida. He wouldn't seem to fit Dan Mullen's system, and I'm sure all you FSU fans will be sad to see him go. He literally handed the Noles 21 points in a 38-22 FSU win in the swamp on Saturday.
Yeah, I really go back and forth on where Felipe Franks is at on my mental depth chart, because I think, as you just said, he's done. The future is going to rest in the hands of maybe Matt Corral if Dan Mullen secures a nice recruiting class. But I also look at Felipe Franks and his athletic ability. If he can take off and move, that's where Dan Mullen excels in terms of coaching quarterbacks. So when you take a look at what's ahead, you know that Dan Mullen, first and foremost, has to make sure that he gets a good quality quarterback. His offense and Matt Corral may not completely line up, and that's going to be one of the biggest questions going into this recruiting season, I think.
So Florida State gets a needed win in Gainesville to remain bowl eligible. Don't forget they've rescheduled a game coming up this Saturday to see if they can advance to a bowl game for, I believe, the 36th straight year. But it doesn't mean the week is without distractions. The Jimbo Fisher to anywhere else rumor seems to fire up every year about this time, and Jimbo Fisher never quite seems to squelch it entirely, Joe. So what gives in Tallahassee? Texas A&M has reportedly made a very big offer that would up Jimbo's salary as much as $2 million a year. Would he leave FSU for Texas A&M?
Well, I know when we talk on Midday Chalk with the Seminole grad like Rick Ballou, all the Seminole Nation has come out and basically in mass, in voice, with the like-minded thought. Jimbo, either say you're going to stay or take off. Now, here's what happens. Jimbo Fisher, and in particular Jimmy Sexton, his agent, it is an annual occurrence where Jimmy Sexton, he's not the only coach that Jimmy Sexton represents, but he will work the phones, he'll work the system, and he'll put his guys in position to either get pay raises or get better jobs. Now, the other reality here is that Jimbo Fisher doesn't necessarily love FSU and Tallahassee as much as Florida State fans do. And that's hard to say, but that is a fact. It's just the simple mathematics of every year he's in a coaching derby and gets a pay raise out of it. He's not long for Tallahassee like FSU fans would like.
Well, I do think that FSU fan, more than anything else, would love to see Jimbo Fisher just come out and flat out say, I'm not going anywhere. Why would I leave anywhere? I'm here at Florida State. We won one national title. We're recruiting in the top 5 every year, and our hope and plans are to win more national titles for great Seminole Nation. I think that's what FSU fan wants to hear Jimbo Fisher say. Unfortunately, the FSU head coach does not appear willing to say it, at least just yet. Of course, it could be worse. You could be the University of Tennessee, and in Joe, all my years, I've never seen such a convoluted circus as what happened in Knoxville on Sunday. All right, just to rewind here in case you missed it. First, Tennessee announced they had hired Greg Schiano, a former head coach at Rutgers and a former head coach at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Well, Tennessee fan base came under the impression that Schiano and somehow knew, was aware of, participated in. I mean, to hear him talk, he actually was a child predator himself. But because he was on the Penn State staff, social media and the Tennessee message boards, in essence, fired Greg Schiano before he ever arrived.
It really is incredible, and it speaks volumes to social media and the movement that takes place in terms of the fan indictment that can happen very quickly. First off, let's go back to Florida real quick. People through social media were either putting a stamp on Chip Kelly or rejecting it. Now, that was a positive story. You take the Tennessee story and enter in what we just talked about with Greg Schiano's ties to Penn State and Jerry Sandusky. It was incredible what happened, and they took on this particular hire. Tennessee had to walk it back. One of the most embarrassing things I think I've ever seen when it comes to announcing a hiring. And Greg Schiano, for what it's worth, I believe is a pretty good coach. But for whatever reason, this has been sitting back, in the shadows, and then all of a sudden it comes out. Wow.
There's a precedent here that I'm not sure I ever have seen, especially when it comes to sports. But, I mean, this is Tennessee firing a coach based on the response of a fan base to third-person hearsay allegations that have been denied very, very vociferously by Greg Schiano and those around him. I mean, this is a he said. And still, the University of Tennessee does not stand firm in its hiring of Greg Schiano. And boy, they're in for a mess. Good luck, Tennessee, getting another coach to agree to come coach there. Meanwhile, it was a good weekend for the University of Georgia. And the reasons are twofold. First, they got a win over arch rival Georgia Tech. Now, that's not saying much. That usually happens. But because Auburn was beating Alabama in the Iron Bowl, Georgia now heads to the SEC championship game in about the same position they would have been had they been undefeated. So here are the Dogs knocking on that door to the playoffs.
It really is in a lot of ways just erasing the last 3 weeks, because the redo, the part 2 of Georgia versus Auburn is going to take place Saturday in Atlanta in that beautiful new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it's almost as if the first one didn't occur, because if they win the SEC championship, I believe they're in the college football playoff. It makes sense. The SEC front runner is going to go in and compete for a national championship. But at the same time, when you take a look at what has happened with Georgia, how does Kirby Smart re-coach his football team against Auburn to do some things differently? Jake Fromm, the Auburn front, got after him defensively. They couldn't run the football with the success that we've seen them run against other teams, and kind of like they did Saturday against Georgia Tech. And then also defensively, Kerryon Johnson's going to be a big question for Auburn, but that defense did not have an answer for Kerryon Johnson the last time these two teams faced up.
Well, and that's certainly a big asterisk going into this game, because without the Auburn running back, Auburn is not the exact same team. One thing seems certain to happen this go around in the playoffs. There's never been a 2-loss team, and there's never been 2 teams from the same conference. I think one of those, if not both those factors, are going to change. And Miami is right back into it, even though they lost this weekend. Kind of a shocking loss at Pitt, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because they play Clemson this week, and I feel if they beat Clemson and win the ACC, based on, in part, wins over Notre Dame and Virginia Tech in the last month, Miami will probably get into.
Yeah, you're probably right. And as you say that, I'm thinking about it, Jeff, and it makes sense, because even though we have what looks like a semi-playoff leading into the college football playoff with elimination games, the Miami loss, a lot like the Georgia loss, you can just basically pencil through those, and if they take care of business this coming Saturday, they will walk into the college football playoff. Was not impressed at all with what Miami did. The decision for Mark Richt to change quarterbacks I thought was dicey at best. It certainly did not work out, and Malik Rozier at least brought him back for a moment. So we'll find out what happens, whether or not Coach Mark Richt can put together his best game plan going forward.
All right, meanwhile, we like to hear what you have to say, and you can ask us your best and brightest questions through the act of Twitter time. And for that, we send it over to Donna Murphy. Hey, Murph.
Oh, and ask they did. It was crazy this weekend, especially with all of the coaching changes. And happy Monday to you all. Just as a reminder, if you want to get your questions answered by the experts, Frank Frangie, in this case, it will be Joe Cowart and Jeff Prosser. All you have to do is use the hashtag #AskFrankAndJeff. So first up, JCamp1973 just wants to wish both of you a lovely, happy 4 years of mediocrity. And then he follows that up with a nice question of, if Florida wants to beat Alabama, shouldn't they open the pocketbook and hire a real coach?
Well, listen, the word is Dan Mullen's getting in excess of $7 million a year. Is that not the pocketbook open? I would ask JCamp1973, who would you have hired? You going to get Bill Belichick? I mean, there's not a lot out there. They wanted Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly wanted to go to UCLA. So, I mean, given what was left, I thought it was important they make a decision and make one stand.
This was not a financial failure for the University of Florida, that's for sure. They did reach out to get an exciting guy in Chip Kelly. They looked at an up-and-comer in Scott Frost. Both of them were going to cost a decent amount of money. And as Jeff just said, the money that Mullen's going to make is right in line with what other coaches are being hired for. There's nothing wrong with the finances of this. They have to make sure that they get the right guy. And yes, it's choice number 3. It's door number 3 for Florida, but they have at least a guy that is coached in the SEC, has been successful, and we'll find out if he can do it in Gainesville.
Donna, you have another?
I sure do. This happens to be a true or false question. Are you ready? It is it true that Frost, meaning Scott Frost, turned down Florida?
Well, we got a 50-50 shot here, Joe. Huh?
A little bit of a coin flip.
Listen, turned down may not be the right word. I'm not sure it was ever offered. I think word got out there pretty quickly. The worst kept secret since Nebraska started going downhill in October was that favorite son Scott Frost would be brought home. So, yeah, I think it was pretty well determined that that Scott Frost was going to go to Nebraska, so I don't think he was ever actually offered it to the point of turning it down. They did the diligence and wasn't to be.
Yeah, and my guess is that that's two parties having a quick conversation, Scott Strickland and whoever handles Scott Frost in this particular situation. And Chris Fowler said Saturday night that he felt like this deal had been done for quite some time. So we will find out whether or not there's any truth to that. But the bottom line is, I don't mind at all Scott Frost going back to Nebraska. I certainly wish Florida would have been able to make a run.
So a crazy, chaotic, especially when it comes to coaching college football weekend. And we haven't even gotten to the new playoff rankings, which will come out tomorrow night. All right, to the desert we go when we return. And we all have just one thing to say. Run the ball! Jag Talk next on 1010XL tonight.
Lil Detroit.
Garber Auto Mall.
Lil Detroit.
Garber Auto Mall.
Either way you know or remember it, it relates to low prices, huge selections, and treating you like family. Located in the ever-growing city of Green Cove Springs, we are proud to be a part of over 3 decades of history serving thousands of area residents. Take the short drive or visit us online at GarberAutomall.com, but don't pay big city prices anymore.
Lil Detroit.
Garber Auto Mall.
Lil Detroit.
Garber Auto Mall.
If you like your pizza loaded with cheese, then have we got a crust for you. Pizza Hut's Ultimate Cheesy Crust Pizza. 16 cheesy pockets overflowing with a 5-cheese blend of melted cheeses. Only from Pizza Hut and only for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
I'm David Robbins with the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. When you or someone you know is arrested, you will go in front of a judge within a matter of hours, and the decisions you make at that time can have a serious and permanent impact on your life. Time is of the essence. That's why we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help. If you or a loved one is arrested, call Epstein & Robbins immediately. We can be by your side for those crucial moments. Visit FLDUIDefense.com. We're Epstein & Robbins, and we're here to help.
Whew, that was close. Uh-oh, better get Maaco. For a limited time, Maaco's overall paint sale starts as low as $2.99. Maaco, America's Body Shop.
Hey, Dad. Are you sure there's nothing on your Christmas list?
I'm just happy you're here.
This one's for Grandpa. And so are these. Merry Christmas, Dad.
Let's go fishing.
This Christmas, for all for less means more.
Welcome back to 1010XL tonight, and the Jags are back in town after really letting one get away yesterday. We all saw it, and this is how it went down in Phoenix, or Glendale, I guess I should say, as the Jags and the Cardinals were out there. There's the man of the hour, Doug Marrone, and I will say this, at least he owned it, but first he saw his team fall behind 13-0, 16-3, and then rally, Joe, and Blake Bortles not doing it with his arm so much yesterday, but with his legs.
Yeah, he doesn't get in the end zone very often, which is a little bit of a surprise athletically, but he was able to get in more than once on Sunday. And the defense, this was just such a huge play. Yannick Ngakoue forces the ball out of the hand of Blaine Gabbert, and what a moment for Calais Campbell, who had played all of his professional career in Arizona, to be able to come up with that score. And I thought, Jeff, that was going to be the game clincher.
Well, it kind of has, because in the past they've taken that and they've moved on, and they've dominated the game from that point forward. But I will say this, you're not going to take Blaine Gabbert to a Super Bowl, but our old buddy's a lot better than he was here in Jacksonville. He threw for 240 yards against the #1 pass defense in the league, but when Blake Bortles also scored his second touchdown run, we were tied at 24, and this is where the Jags had a chance to take the game into overtime. But after starting from their own 10, they elected instead to throw a pass, stop the clock, gave the Cardinals a chance to get the ball back, and 57 yards later, that's not the result we wanted.
Yeah, that's a real big head scratcher. Certainly you can look at Doug Marrone. You can question the decision there when they made the decision to spike the football and leave time on the clock. And then you also have to give credit to their kicker, a 57-yarder. He booted that about a third up the upright, it looked like, so there was plenty of leg. But the bottom line is that this football team had a chance. Blake Bortles, after those two big runs, threw it right into the midst of Tyrann Mathieu. That was the biggest play of the game for the Arizona Cardinals, and it almost looked like, even though it was a bootleg and he was moving, that was a play that they picked up pretty quickly, the Arizona defense.
Well, look, there's been some talk in the Jaguars bounce back, and they're going to have to bounce back now. And in fairness to the Jags, they have bounced back all year long, yet to lose back-to-back games. So Even though they've got this loss, disappointing as it was 27-24 yesterday in Arizona, they will come back home now for 3 straight. And they go even 2-1 in that stretch. You're talking about a 9-5 football team with 2 to go. So the path toward the playoffs is still on. They can still win the division and be a 3 seed, but that time mismanagement and that loss yesterday on the final play of the game means they've gone from the 3 seed to the 5 seed, just like that.
And really, essentially what it will come down to, very likely, if you say they go 2-1, they've got Colts, Seahawks, Houston Texans, all 3 of them at home. And then they have the game, the very important game on New Year's Eve against the Tennessee Titans, which may be the tiebreaker at the top of the division.
Yeah, which I'm fine playing for that, but you know what I don't want? I don't want Tennessee and the Jags to play that last game to see who the home team is in the playoff game the very next week. I'm tired of Tennessee. I got the boogeyman a little bit with Tennessee, right? They beat us earlier this year. There's issues in the past. We gotta get past this relationship. All right, let's do this. The Fabulous 5 still in play. They're playing high school in this town, boys, and they are playing big time. We will update you on the state playoff race, and there is plenty of local interest still alive. This is 1010XL tonight.
Sawyer Gas.
I'm Barry Rainey, General Manager for Sawyer Gas. On behalf of all our employees, I want to thank our valued customers for their business. Here at Sawyer Gas, serving our customers in a safe and responsible manner is our top priority. We are proud to be a part of the local community and participate in the many activities that support local charities and organizations that improve the neighborhoods where we work, live, and play.
Sawyer Gas, driving every day with Sawyer Gas.
When you've been in an accident, there's going to be a lot to deal with, and we will help you through that whole process. But in the end, our goal is to give you the financial breathing room to be able to make decisions that's best for you without feeling rushed, that you don't have to make those decisions under stress and under pressure. Let us do all the work to get you the money that you deserve. That's what we do for our clients. That's what we can do for you.
Harrell and Harrell, don't settle for less than you deserve.
The Subaru Share the Love event is on at Jack Hanania's Subaru of Orange Park. Drive a new Outback Limited, just $269 a month. Or a new Impreza Premium, just $179 a month. Plus get 2 years complimentary maintenance. Buy today and a $250 donation will be made to one of 5 charities at Jack Hanania's Subaru of Orange Park.
If you like your pizza loaded with cheese, then have we got a crust for you. Pizza Hut's Ultimate Cheesy Crust Pizza. 16 cheesy pockets overflowing with a 5-cheese blend of melted cheeses. Only from Pizza Hut and only for a limited time. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
When it comes to tough, versatile workhorses, nothing compares to Kubota's full line of RTV series utility vehicles. Engineered to last and designed to deliver, Kubota's RTV X series doesn't just lead the way on rugged dependability, it leads the pack. From big jobs to small projects and daily chores. Choose from America's top-selling family of diesel utility vehicles to help you do it all.
Visit McClenny Equipment and Tractor or click metractor.com.
There's no story more surprising than a real-life Dateline mystery.
Probably a pretty ugly crime scene.
Follow every twist and turn 5 times a week.
The chase is on.
With Dateline.
Weeknights at 10 on CW17.
Welcome back to 1010XL. Tonight we've got high school highlights, and man, do we have a bunch of them because area schools continue to march their way towards the state titles. Let's go with an all-local matchup. Fleming Island was at Bartram Trail on a Friday night, and the Bears find themselves now in the state semifinals as they beat Fleming Island. So Bartram with a dual quarterback situation over there, playing very good football. And man, they seem like they're due for a deep run, but that wasn't the only success story.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of good football. Reigns, so they have played all year long. Coach Duran Wiley, you have to feel really good for him and for the Reigns Vikings. They move into a title game in Class 4A. So they've been one of the teams that, out of the public school system, that's been able to put it together, and they've got a chance to play for it all.
Yeah, Reigns against Cocoa was a really, really tough matchup. But man, let's show you the schedule coming up this week. and look at everything that's still alive. University Christian will play for another state title, as they've done it now already back-to-back years. Reigns and Cocoa, and that is a battle of heavyweights. Those games already title games. And then meanwhile, advancing a step away from playing for it all, Baker County, St. Augustine, and what else is new? And Bartram Trail, which we just showed you. So good luck to all our high school guys who will be out there again this weekend. All right, we take one final break here on 1010XL tonight, and more of your questions via the Twitter time when we return.
Before you sell your home, know the math. A $200,000 home, traditionally at a 6% commission, costs you $12,000. With First Coast Realty of Jacksonville, that same house with full service is listed for a flat fee of $575 plus 1% commission, which leaves a whole lot of savings for you. Full listing service for less. First Coast Realty of Jacksonville.
Get your hands on Star Wars: The Last Jedi Cosmic Shells exclusively at Winn-Dixie. Run to your local store to get these Star Wars collectibles now. It's the only place in America where you can get a free pack of Star Wars Cosmic Shell collectibles with every $20 spent in store. Winn-Dixie, may the Force be with you.
I don't know what you've been told. I don't know what you've been told. Where the best gear is sold. Where the best gear is sold. Tactical gear working more. Your Army, Navy, outdoor store. Army, Army, Navy, Navy, Army, Navy, outdoor.
Get all you need at Army, Navy Outdoors. We're your tactical work and outdoor store. We carry a complete line of clothing and gear so you can have fun or work in comfort.
Army, Navy, outdoors.
I'm David Robbins with the law firm of Epstein & Robbins. When you or someone you know is arrested, you will go in front of a judge within a matter of hours, and the decisions you make at that time can have a serious and permanent impact on your life. Time is of the essence. That's why we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help. If you or a loved one is arrested, call Epstein & Robbins immediately. We can be by your side for those crucial moments. Visit FLDUIDefense.com. We're Epstein & Robbins, and we're here to help.
They have a weapon, a doomsday weapon.
We fight to protect the people that we love.
Let's get to work.
Everyone you care about, everyone you love, they're going to die.
Failure's not an option. Losing is not an option. To save one for me.
Victory!
Crisis on Earth X. The two-night crossover starts with Supergirl tonight at 8/7 Central on the CW.
Welcome back to 1010XL tonight. It is Twitter time. I'm Donna Murphy. Along with us, we'll be joining Joe Cowart and Jeff Prosser. All right, let's go ahead. Let's go right to the Jags now. So, from Maddie Miller 4, yeah, it wasn't a great decision to throw it, but what if Lee catches it?
I have an answer for that. I'll tell you what happens if Lee catches it. You threw a whopping 2-yard route. You get the same result as if you'd run it up the middle. There's no explaining this decision. It was a terrible one.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. He's throwing it into traffic, and as we said, just barely past the line of scrimmage. It was not a high percentage successful play, period.
All right, enough said. Now let's head back to the college realm about Jimbo Fisher and the Noles. Isn't it about time to quit caving into Jimbo and let him leave if he's going to do this every year?
Well, I think that's kind of what you're doing, right? I mean, he's doing this every year, and I mean, look, if you're an FSU fan, stop for just a second and get over any hurt feelings. Do you really want Jimbo Fisher to leave? Not me.
I've always had the standard answer, be careful what you wish for. And if you are wishing for Jimbo to hike it out of town, well, you better be prepared for whoever that next guy is. Jimbo Fisher's won a national championship, has played for another one. Give him some credit, but he does need to make up his mind.
Well, and that's the hard thing. That's part of becoming a successful program. People want your coach. So
yeah.
Appreciate you sitting in for Frank.
Thank you. Good Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
a lot of turkey. You still eating it?
I went and got a sub yesterday. Got turkey. What? Makes no sense.
Harrell & Harrell is a personal injury law firm that fights for truth, safety, and justice. That's what we do. If you feel your loved one is being abused or neglected, please feel free to give me a call. I will walk you through it. I will help you through the process, and we'll make some good decisions.
What if we told you the best internet for your home was also a great value?